Disclaimer, this video has a lot of clips from Jamaican artists speaking in Jamaican patois, which is like French and kind of broken English. So shout out to my boy Nation, aka Pharaoh, aka Tipsy, who took time out of his day 2 days in a row and spent all day with me transcribing these clips to try to make them understandable for the people that don't speak Jamaican patois. Again, shout out to him, and it's just a quick disclaimer that we did add captions. They may not be a one-for-one word translation. As you guys are watching the video, you may notice that it sounds like he said something different than the caption said. That's because we tried to take what was being said and translate them one-to-one into English so that everybody could enjoy this video. And I just wanted to take a moment to shout him out. With that being said and that disclaimer out the way, let's go ahead and get into the video.
Welcome back to Primetime News. A shocking revelation by investigators in the Vybz Kartel murder case today, as a dancehall artist and 3 other members of the Portmore Empire appeared in court.
The men are accused of murder and their attorneys demanding bail. Today, investigators disclosed some of the evidence they're pursuing against all 4.
A glimpse of Kartel on his way to court today. He has been in and out of court since the police nabbed him for 1 murder, locked him away and charged him with a 2nd. And on each visit, the word from his attorneys has been consistent: bail denied.
It means essentially that because the witnesses weren't coming, they wanted to read the statement into evidence without the witness actually being there. As it relates to one particular witness, from the very early stages, he had indicated that we had some concerns about the identity of this witness. Not that the witness didn't exist per se, because I'm sure that there was a real person who had given that statement, but as to that person's identity is what we were trying to ascertain. To no avail. All of our checks throughout the trial proved that the witness had no birth certificate, the witness had no TRN, the witness was not on the voters list anywhere. The 3 schools that he indicated he attended, there is no record of that witness. There's no record of that person born on that day to those particular parents. There is no record of this person.
All right, now I believe that Vybz Kartel get an unfair trial.
Vybz Kartel.
Vybz Kartel. Vybz Kartel. Vybz Kartel.
Vybz Kartel. Some of y'all may be familiar with the name, some may not, but Vybz is undoubtedly one of the best artists to ever do it, and his influence in the music industry is massive, even in 2024, despite him having been incarcerated since 2011.
Vybz Kartel is one of my biggest inspirations.
That's a very intriguing artist to work with. At the end of the day, I just know what my experiences with him, and I know what he does for me in music. He's an inspiring motherfucker, and he work hard too.
He's one of the few artists that, no matter what, seems to never lose relevancy, and it seems like every other week we're seeing reports claiming that Vybz has been released from prison. These reports are mostly false though, and he hasn't been released, at least not yet, but it doesn't stop these stories from popping up. His incarceration has also not stopped him from making and releasing new music either, with new songs hitting the internet from Vybz regularly at this point. So today, we're going to be taking a dive into the story of Vybz Kartel, learning about how he became such a massive figure, the twisted story of the murders that led to his prison sentence, and what the future looks like moving forward. 18 degrees north of the equator lies Jamaica, a tropical paradise for some, a living nightmare for others. Jamaica is the 4th largest island country in the Caribbean, located just west of Haiti, south of Cuba, and east of the Cayman Islands. It's divided into 14 parishes, with Kingston, the capital of Jamaica, acting as a parish itself. All 14 of these parishes are then split into basically 3 bigger parishes: Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey. Basically like 14 counties spread across 3 states for the Americans in the building who had just confused. Now Jamaica has the 7th largest harbor in the world with the Kingston Harbor, and the entire country is about 146 miles long and about 52 miles wide, meaning you could fit roughly 62 Jamaicas inside of the state of Texas. is made up of valleys and plains in the west and center, often called cockpit country by the locals, with the small Mocha and Dry Harbor Mountains in the center and the Blue Mountains, with Jamaica's tallest point, Blue Mountain Peak, starting around Kingston in the east. The largest cities, aside from Kingston, would be Spanish Town and Portmore. While most people are familiar with the bigger island of Jamaica, the truth is, though, there are about 30 other islands, islets, keys, and sandbanks lining the shores, with the biggest one being Great Goat Island, located in the south around Moore's Pen. Also, if you ever go, you'll notice something crazy about Jamaica, and that is how the locals name the places in it. Places like Broke Neck Gully, Rat Trap, Betty's Hope, Rest and Be Thankful, See Me No More, Time and Patience, Wait a Bit, and Me No Send, You No Come. Bro, these names are great. Anyways, there are also places in Jamaica called maroon villages, which are villages made up of descendants from slave ancestors that escaped captivity and created their own little free societies in the mountain. And still till this day, these villages operate kind of autonomously from the rest of Jamaica. Slaves were initially brought to Jamaica to harvest sugar plants, if y'all didn't know, and most of the slaves that were brought there came from Africa and India, which brings me into the next part of this story, which is the chronic or the ganja. Now, I'm sure that most of y'all know that cannabis is seen as a giant part of Jamaican culture, but I found it interesting to learn that it was actually introduced to Jamaican culture by indentured servants from India that were brought over to the island to work in the 1800s. And while the island is known for its use of cannabis heavily, you might be surprised to find out that until 2015, it was actually illegal to even have it. It wasn't until 2015 that it was decriminalized, and now people can have up to 2 zips, 5 plants, and Rastafarians are allowed to consume it for religious purposes. Another thing that I want to hit on is the Rastafarians. As an American, I can say that when people think of a Jamaica from America, we normally imagine somebody dressed like and practicing the philosophies of Rastafarianism, mostly because of Bob Marley's influence, but in reality, only about 5% of the population is Rastafarian. The rest of the people are spread across different religious groups, with Christianity being the most popular in the country. Also, Jamaica has more churches per square kilometer than anywhere else on earth, but that's not all Jamaica is known for. Most people know it for its music. Starting in the 1950s, ska and rocksteady were the precursors to the 60s and 70s. Reggae and dancehall melodies, which some say paved the way for future genres like hip-hop and EDM. Now, that was very much an oversimplification of Jamaica and its history, but it was here that the topic of today's video, Vybz Kartel, is from, and the culture that he was raised in. The roots of the story, if you will. There's more to Jamaica than that, like the country's problem with corruption, its confusing government structure, and all that. But if you want to know more, I highly suggest you check out this video I made about Bob Marley, as I cover a ton of the political history of Jamaica in that video, and I don't really want to run it back here because it would just be repeating the same thing. With that said, y'all go watch that video if you want to know more. If not, let's go ahead and get into the main topic of today's video, Vybz Kartel. Vybz Kartel, real name Adizio Palmer, was born January 7, 1976 in the capital city of Kingston, but grew up in Portmore in the Waterford community, which is about 19 minutes away from Kingston on the outskirts of the city. He had a total of 5 siblings growing up.
Family structure, both parents, you know what I mean, 1 brother, 4 sisters. Normal family life.
Same?
Yeah, man.
So you were brought up in a fairly stable home?
Yeah, man, definitely, man. Both parents, man.
Like many households in the Caribbean, his parents put a heavy emphasis on educational excellence, something that we've heard before from academics who is also from Jamaica.
School is viewed so differently in other countries. So me and my brother growing up in Jamaica, you got grades, but you also got ranked. So it was known. So for example, if it's a class of 30 people, they used to clown up to who was the dumbest, who was the 30th of 30. Because they write it on your report card. You're the 30, you're the worst, you're the slowest in the right. Real talk. So they compare you against each other. By the way, that's something that doesn't exist in American high schools until you get to college, where they start grading on a curve.
Right, yeah.
I remember like even going to high school, and my mom was just always honest about grades. And it was just basically kind of like an overtone, like, yo, we're sending you to college to become like something esteemed. We want doctors and lawyers. And for any immigrants that's listening to this, you'll know that feeling. Yeah. The family wants doctors, lawyers, dentists. So it became, yo, you gotta be something.
So how did they feel about your rebelliousness at teenage?
Well, my father and I were always at odds, you know, because my father wanted me to. My father is the type of man that don't want to give a show for unsure. So he was always adamant that we get an education. You know what I mean? Try to get at least a trade. You know what I mean? If we weren't making it in the education,
But even with this overtone from his parents, Vybz just couldn't get himself focused enough to compete academically growing up. Not that he wasn't smart, because he was very much an intelligent person. Even back then, he just was putting his effort into other things. In fact, while attending Calabar High School in Kingston, his truancy became so bad and so frequent that they just decided it was best to expel him altogether at some point. And while his father really wanted him to focus on his education and making something of himself through a traditional trade, Vybz says that his mom knew that he wanted to do music, and she was as supportive as a mother could be, pretty much knowing that he was gifted and thought that he should be allowed to explore that as heavily as he wanted to. Plus, he had two uncles who were upcoming DJs in Jamaica that kind of helped influence him. So his mother's big brothers were also in music, so she understood the passion.
You were born where?
I was born in Kingston, Jubilee. Grew up in Portmore, Waterford.
Yeah, went to school?
Went to school, Waterford Infant, Waterford Primary, Calabar High School. Got expelled. Not for educational reasons, for the truancy, skull school style. Always been hanging around at studios all over Kingston. But from a tender age, Vybz Kartel knew that my calling was music, and it was like my mother saw that, because she always encouraged me to do anything where music was concerned. Like even when I would sneak out to go out late, and at the age of 13 and 14 to stage shows, and my father didn't want to let me in, my mother would curse him and say, "Let in the boy, Ray." And he said, yeah, so my mother was always supportive of me being a musician, because she had brothers who were my uncles, who were also aspiring DJs. They really never made it in the business, but they were also one of my early influences.
Despite being expelled though, Vybz ended up continuing his education at the Tutorial College, a private school in Kingston, where he graduated with English, History, Geography, and Literature at CXC levels. CXC levels basically being the equivalent of a high school diploma in America.
Get bad early.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But we finished our education at Tutorial College, which was a private high school, because my father was adamant that I had to graduate.
And even though he didn't excel when he was in school, this dedication to hard work is something that Vybz has tried to pass down to his kids too, trying his best to make sure that they take their education as serious as they can.
If you hear your youngest, singing the content or ramping shop, you wouldn't be offended at all?
I never heard him singing it, but the greatest thing about it, I never heard a teacher at school saying he sang it either. You know what I mean? When I get reports from the school about my children, always good reports. You know what I mean? So it's all about how you grow your child. You know what I mean? Because the world is around us, and what we do is an expression of the world. My kids have to grow in how my parents grew me. I was brought up a disciplined child. I never knew how I got so wild. Yeah? But seriously though, I was brought up in a fairly decent, or pretty decent parenting method, and that is the same parenting method I apply to my children.
The young Adija was exposed to a wide variety of music from a young age by his two uncles, who were aspiring musicians themselves. Every weekend, he would be treated to new musical offerings on his uncle's old component set, ranging from Sam Cooke and country and western ballads to Ninja Man, who eventually became one of his musical foes later in this story. At around the age of 10, his favorite artists included Papa San, Charlie Chaplin, Will Smith, and KRS-One, all of whose lyrics he said he would write down and memorize so he could perform them later for the entertainment of his friends and family.
Yeah, growing up, which artists you
Ninja Man, see me. Shabba, Papa San, Lieutenant Stitchy. I know there was lyricists at the time, Professor Nuts, Boris Gardner, J.C. Lodge, Fresh Prince. I listen to everybody growing up, KRS-One.
Now Vybz decided to hone in on his skills and concentrate on winning over his own community of Waterford until he was ready for bigger things. With that goal in mind, on weekends, he would practice his art on the neighborhood sound systems that were in various shops around the area. In 1993, Vybz, who was now in his mid-teens, recorded his first single titled Love Fat Women for Alvin Reed's One Heart label under the name Addy Benton. He used the first few initials of his first name for the Addy and adopted Benton from one of his musical inspirations at the time, Buju Benton, who was another fellow dancehall artist.
Vybz Kartel started out just as any other dancehall DJ, you know, started out as an avid fan, loving the music. You know what I mean? I can remember when I asked my father at one time when I was a small child if the radio the people them the way I sing, you know? Yeah, so we born in music, right? Some uncles used to DJ, you know what I mean? I never really made it, you know what I mean? But I used to emulate them and wanted to be like them so much, you know what I mean? So we started growing up, you know, I started going out now to like talent shows in the area, you know what I mean? Gang show, and get a couple boo, you know what I mean? Learn the art, go back to the drawing board, and just gradually build until we became like semi-professional, you know, lacking Portmore.
He would frequent the weekly Gong talent show at the Coney Amusement Park on the outskirts of Kingston to help build buzz, although it wasn't very successful. Undeterred by his weekly failure to impress the talent show audience, he continued to pursue his passion, and he recorded several more tracks for local producers, perfecting his craft over the next few years. In 1996, he and his two friends, Mr. Lee and another singer named Escobar, decided to form a group. At this time, groups were pretty popular across all genres of music. It was 1996. I mean, at the time, there was the Spice Girls, the Fugees, Bone Thugs and Harmony, the Backstreet Boys, and a bunch more. It was basically a trend. Everybody in 1996 was in some sort of group, so it only made sense for them to try to make this move. One night, after watching a movie about Pablo Escobar and his infamous cartel, Adidja came up with the name for his trio, Vybz Kartel. Now, this group would not become famous as a trio, but it was the beginning of something great for Adidja. The three recorded some songs and started doing local shows, but to no avail though. It seemed like it just wasn't moving for them until, by chance, they would catch the attention of a man named Rohan Butler. Rohan was a local show promoter / artist manager who made quite a name for herself around the Waterford area. After seeing Adidja performing as a DJ at a local party via a dedicated cable TV station that only played recaps of dance hall parties from the area, Rohan decided he needed to reach out and see if he could provide assistance for the group. After setting up a meeting with the group, them and Rohan agreed to work together, but it wouldn't go as smoothly as everybody thought it would because, and this was according to Rohan himself, the other two members of Vybz Kartel just weren't as ambitious or talented enough. Despite that though, Rohan continued to believe in Adidja's ability, especially with his penmanship, so he offered to just manage him. This led to the group basically being dissolved and Adidja being the only member left, but instead of changing his name or going back to Addy Benton, he just decided to stick with Vybz Kartel by himself.
So what was it about Kartel that drew you to him, or was it he who found you?
No, well, interestingly, you know, back in the days in the 90s, early 90s, we used to have the cable company just got introduced to Portmore. So we had a channel called Channel 33 on the cable company where all the show is videos of parties that happened previously, you know. So I was watching it one day while I was home and there was a stage show in Gregory Park and Kartel was performing. But the context of his lyrics, when I heard it, I was like, this is no normal person. I've never heard a DJ spitting lyrics like this before in all my years. And I was a Beenie Man fan. I was a Bounty Killer fan. I was a Papa San fan. And Papa San to me was the greatest lyricist at that time. So something that Kartel was saying, I was like, this is not normal. But I never know him, didn't know where he lived, didn't know nothing about him. Although I was living in Waterford and he was in Waterford. Never met him before.
Okay.
There's this guy that used to record the parties, the parties, White Lock. So I said, listen to me, man, this guy, I need to know him. So White Lock said, yeah, man, I know him, man. I said, all right, let him know that I need to talk to him. So it was like a couple of days after White Lock came to me and said, you know, I got in touch with him and he's gonna come see you. So I had a party coming up in Waterford, and when Kartel came to see me, it was 3 of them. A lot of people don't know that Vybz Kartel was a crew. The crew was called Vybz Kartel. So he was Adi Banton. Then you had Mr. Lee, and then you had Escobar as a singer. So it was 2 DJs and 1 singer.
And that, of course, explains the name, the word Kartel in his name.
Right, exactly. Kartel is a group.
Kartel was a group.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
It was a group. So they came and I said, listen, I'm having a party. We invited the crew and they came, they performed. Like 2-3 days after the party, they came back and saw me and I said, do you have a manager? They said, no, not really, you know. I said, would you like me to be a manager? So he gave me that opportunity, being that he was the leader of the group, to say, yes, be the manager. I got them on Champion in Action. This was before Louise Bennett died. And Louise said, they're gonna perform at 5 o'clock. But in my head, I was like, 5 o'clock? That's too early. Nobody not going to see them. So in a way, I said, listen, I'm gonna meet me at my house at 3. 3 o'clock on the dot, Adi Banton, who is now Vybz Kartel, was at my gate. 4 o'clock, Mr. Lee turned up. 5 o'clock, no Escobar. So we decided that, okay, we're gonna drive to his house. So the 3 of us got in the car, we drive to his house. When we went there, he was sitting on the veranda with 2 girls, braiding his hair at 5 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, me tell you, say you go and work at 5. At 5, you're still doing your hair? So I said, okay. So now I start thinking like, me can't deal with them headache here, you know, among other headache before. So that's when I decided that this is it for me. I'm gonna leave these guys alone, you know, because they're not serious. So when I got to the show, I said, you know what? Kartel have a real talent. So I said to him, I'm going to put you up there first. Let you perform. So you're going to perform 2 songs by yourself, and then you call them up to do the song that you're known with them for. So it went that way. He performed, went well. When they came off stage, Jack Scorpio and King James was standing side by side. But because I met them during my run-ins, they called me over and they said, you see the tall black one and bad. I said, I know, man, that's why I do what I did. Because I wanted to showcase and let people know where the talent really is. After the show, I told them, I said, listen now.
You're fired.
I'm done. No, I told them, I said, I'm done.
You fired them, or you said you?
No, everybody, whole group. I said, I'm done.
Now, Ron answers the question. How did he become Adi Banton's manager after firing his Kartel?
About 2 days after that, Kartel come back to my house and he said, listen, you know, I can't carry them on my back go half a tree from Portmore, you know. So I still want you to be my manager, you know, because now Kartel see me getting on Champion in Action. And him know, say, this never happened for him before.
With that, it became official. Rohan was now managing Vybz as a solo act. He got to work instantly, and his angle of attack when it came to breaking Vybz was simple. He would hit up any show promoters that were throwing what he considered to be a good show and would negotiate any way possible for Vybz to get his chance on stage at these events. This often led to Vybz performing with no fee, meaning that neither him nor Rohan would get paid, but this is a strategy that was working, and it allowed Vybz to get noticed by the bigger acts that he would be in the building with. One of these people was another artist named Bounty Killer, who at the time was massive. Now Rohan tried to get Vybz on stage with Bounty, but Bounty and Vybz hadn't met yet, and Rohan's cosign just wasn't enough for Bounty to pull Vybz up on stage with him just yet. Instead, Vybz was slated to perform a few hours before Bounty. After the show though, Bounty watched the tape back and seen Vybz's performance and apparently was impressed with what he saw. And this would eventually open up a ton of doors for Vybz's career.
I had met Bounty Killer from 1998 when I was having a party, and he did the commercial for me.
Yes.
To promote the party. And then that is why, when I gave him the big screen for Saga to the East in 1999.
I'm waiting for that.
Yes, and I said to him, I have an artist, you know, that I want to perform. but I want him to perform when you are performing. And he was like, he can't guarantee me that. Because then he never meet Kartel yet, they don't know nothing about Kartel. But me, I convinced him, say, no man, the youth are bad. It so happened that Kartel was slotted to work much earlier than Killer. So after Saga to the East, I guess Killer watched the tape. Because when I went to the car wash to see Killer, he said, now I know why you tell me to call up this dude when I was working. Him bad man.
This new connection between Rohan, Vybz, and Bounty Killer would eventually turn into something much bigger when Rohan suggested that Vybz allow Bounty to be the face of one of his tracks. Rohan says that when he heard the song that Vybz had written, he just knew that Bounty Killer should be the one to do the song, but Vybz wasn't feeling it at first. However, since Rohan had been opening new doors for him, Vybz allowed Rohan to pitch the song to Bounty, and Bounty decided that he would in fact record the record, and this was really where Vybz started to get a breakthrough in the industry a little, even though it was for a record that nobody knew he wrote.
Give Kartel ideas like topics and songs that he should write. Sometimes he does it, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he will call me in the morning and say, listen to this song. And if I say I don't like it, I remember one time he wrote a song and I said I didn't like it. And he said, what do you mean why you don't like it? And I said, I just don't like it. Go work on it some more, man. A couple of days after I asked him about the song, he said, dash it to him. I said, what do you mean why you dash it to him? He said, you say you don't like it, so I just dash it to him. So he called me one morning and he was singing the song, If I the Bantan Did Rule the World. But the song was so well structured, it just gave me a Bounty Killer vibes. So I said to him, you know, I think Bounty should do this song. He said, what do you mean by that? I said, yeah, man, but he didn't like the idea. I could tell, you know? But he didn't really come out and say it to me, said, no. I guess he trusted my vision or my knowledge and just said, all right. So how will I get this to Bounty? I said, don't worry yourself. I took him to the studio, did a demo. So I go to the car wash and I will sit, sometimes Bounty don't even turn up. And I had to leave, but one day eventually he turned up and I gave him the cassette. It was actually 2 songs on the cassette that I gave him. He took the cassette and said, okay, he's gonna listen to it. So one morning now, when I was on East Queen Street going back to Portmore, my phone rang. I answered the phone and the man said, Butler Wagwan. I said, who this? He said, Bounty. I said, yeah, it's Bounty. Come off from my phone, man, about Bounty. I hang up. So the phone ring back again. I answer, I say, yo, who this? What you want? Man said, Butler want you. You can't believe that Bounty Killer call you. So that time I said, no, a Bounty for true, because my phone never ring it and it's Bounty Killer. He's always face to face with talk. And him say, yo, I will listen to the cassette. Boy, bad man. Him say, when an artist good, him good, but a youth time wicked. So I start, I tell you, even though I talk now, I feel it. So Bounty I say, yeah man, him bad man, we have to go do some work. I say, good. So after that now, that's how Killer now and Kartel start doing songs. Kartel start writing songs. Killer hear more songs with Kartel, and I just saw the history start with
Kartel Bounty Killer relationship.
Kartel Bounty Killer thing.
With the two now clicked up, Bounty Killer started to refer to this friendship and the relationships that he was building with other local artists as the Alliance. Basically, it was just like a group of people from the area that Bounty Killer was mentoring. According to Vybz, he would go on to write about 30 songs over the next few years for Bounty Killer. Songs like High Grade Forever, Warlord Rule the World, and Gal Clown, all of which were massive songs for Bounty. Now, after writing for Bounty for a few years and some of those songs he wrote becoming successful, it was time for Vybz to create his own lane, and in 2003 he began to drop a string of hit records, culminating in the release of his debut album Up to the Time, which featured the hit records that he had released throughout the year, and it was distributed by UK based label Green Sleeves Records. He was also the #2 selling member of the Alliance that year, only being beaten out by Elephant Man. Regardless, it was a phenomenal year for Kartel, one that solidified his presence in the game, and a year that would change his life for forever. Also in 2003, he found himself at the center of his first real controversy after a pre-planned on-stage clash with another Jamaican artist, Ninja Man, at the annual dancehall festival Sting, which was held in Kartel's hometown of Portmore. The clash took a turn for the worse though. Right now, I gotta pause it there so we can stay in line with YouTube's terms of service, but basically Vybz hits this man with the hook that sends him flying backwards to the floor, and there's basically multiple angles of what happened online on YouTube. I'm sure you guys can find it if you want to see it, but yeah, it got a little physical for a moment between the two, and for the next 6 minutes, according to an article written about it in 2003, for the next 6 minutes, the rat-a-tat-tat sound of automatic gunfire filled the air. So this was a crazy moment for sure, and one that brought a bunch of attention to Kartel, but his manager at the time, Rohan Butler, told authorities and reporters that it wasn't Kartel's fault, as it was a pre-planned clash on stage. It just wasn't supposed to get physical, and then when Ninja Man pushed Kartel, Kartel was simply swinging in self-defense. And after reviewing the footage, it does seem that Ninja Man pushed Kartel first. Despite this, Kartel decided it was best to take accountability for what happened and said in a press conference that apologies are in order, especially to the Don Gorgon Ninja Man and the organizers of Sting. I must accept responsibility.
Well, this is Vybz Kartel, you know what I mean? That the press release for certain promotions, and I just like the fans out there to know that, first of all, I got to apologize firstly and foremost to Ninja Man, Desmond Valentine, who has been really an icon in a dancehall for over like 15 years, and the whole incident is such an unfortunate incident, but we just wish first to apologize to Ninja Man, then to the promoters of the event.
4 days later, the two would make a public appearance together at the Flying Squad headquarters for the police in Kingston, where they told cameras that they had squashed their beef.
Say, it's a misunderstanding, but to me, it's a foolish act. You understand? I don't know where it come from, but I see where it lead to. And it's my responsibility to tell Jamaica not to take this on the battlefield.
My fans, you have to just accept the losses, you know, because we're around, you see it. So when the wrong motor, you have to just becomes a mother, admit say you're around, you see me I say. So that's that you work with the other one. It never even reached that far there with Ninja Man. You don't know the man, a veteran of about 15, 20 years of the business where we are watch from, we are little youth. I can't have a peel going and Sting much less, you see me? So you don't know. Right now we just make the people them know. So first apology to the big man straight.
The elder of the two, Ninja Man, said that both Kartel and Sting would suffer more fallout from the incident than he would. He suggested an olive branch that Sting promoters could consider.
Sting stage a free show. Same place at Jamworld. Ninja Man Vybz Kartel Bounty Killer. Live on stage one time.
Pats. Ninja, who had the option to press charges against Kartel for assault, declined to do so.
Have them in the police. See how I got charged people for what?
38-year-old Ninja Man was charged with assault, occasioning grievous bodily harm and disorderly conduct, while Kartel was charged with assault, occasioning bodily harm and disorderly conduct as well. But while Ninja Man was immediately released on a $15,000 station bail, the 27-year-old Kartel and several members of his entourage were locked behind bars at the Central Police Station in downtown Kingston with no immediate release. They were reportedly being held in connection with 2 murders. Now, the article didn't state what 2 murders they were being held for, and Kartel was never charged with them, but I assume it may have had something to do with the ammunition that they retrieved while arresting him. Deputy Commissioner Lucius Thomas said that Kartel was charged with breaches of the Town and Community Act and the Firearm Act, along with disorderly conduct. He said, quote unquote, he was found with hollow point ammunition. The circumstances under which he got these type of cartridges are being investigated. And that's all that was really ever reported about these charges, so there's no telling what murders they were being investigated for. Now, while this marked the official come up point for Kartel, it was also the beginning of a ton of problems for him as well. While his music was doing phenomenal, it was drawing in a ton of attention, and some of it just wasn't so good. For starters, the year following the Ninja Man incident, Vybz found himself being nominated for the MOBO Award, which is the annual British Music Award presentation honoring achievements in music of black origin, or MOBO. However, Kartel's 2004 UK MOBO Award nomination was withdrawn amidst controversy over homophobic content in his lyrics. Elephant Man also had his nomination pulled after the judging panel for the awards received complaints from gay rights activists about discouraging remarks both had made in their earlier music. They demanded that both parties submit a written apology to the awards for their behavior, but neither sent one in, resulting in them pulling the nominations. A spokesperson for MOBO said The last thing Mobo wants to do is encourage more prejudice. Mobo has not yet received written apologies as previously promised. We have therefore alerted the Mobo Academy to this situation, and a decision has been taken to withdraw the nominations for Elephant Man and Vybz Kartel. Now, while unable to win this award, Kartel didn't slow down. He just went even harder, dropping 2 albums that year, Timeless and More Up to the Time, both of which were immensely successful. Now, the next part of this story has some conflict amongst fans as far as to when this actually took place, with some saying that it happened in 2003, some saying that it happened in 2004. Now, I've tried my best to verify when this next part took place, and from all the official news sources that I read, they said that this next part happened in 2005, so that's where I'm putting it in my timeline. So if you're Jamaican or a big fan and you think this happened in 03, don't be mad at me for putting it in 05. Be mad at all the big news stations that said that this happened in 05, not me, bro. Go take it out on the news stations that reported 05. Now in 2005, Vybz would find himself in another beef with 2 more artists, one named Agent Sasco the Assassin and one named Spragga Benz. It started with Sasco though, as him and Vybz were being set up by Bounty Killer and Beanie Man for a pre-planned beef, something that the two thought would help lift both Vybz and Sasco's career up to new levels. It wasn't supposed to be a real beef though, but something more staged for the publicity. However, at the last minute, Sasco says that he wanted to back out of the deal and not do the beef, but it was too late. Sasco had already dropped a song titled We Are Bad From that wasn't directed at anybody in particular, but came off as a diss record to most who heard it. The thing is, Sasco swears that it wasn't a diss record and says that he decided not to indulge in the beef because he wanted to follow the example of one of his favorite artists, Buju Banton, who he had never seen in a beef with any other artist throughout his career. Buju always took the high road and never participated in the shenanigans. He says that he used that example when deciding if he wanted to beef with Kartel. According to Sasco, he was approached and told that the clash would happen between himself and Kartel without anybody losing any friendship, and everybody would simultaneously make money together. Shortly after is when his song We Are Bad From dropped, and Vybz Kartel wasted no time hitting back with his own record, We No Care Where You Are Bad From, and Sasco said that Kartel did this without waiting for him to put his signature on a contract that would lay out how the beef would go. Either way, Sasco decided it wasn't in his best interest to move forward with the clash, so he just let it go. Now, Sasco was cool with Bounty Killer and they were close, so this damaged the relationship between Kartel and Bounty a little bit. It would get even worse when another dancehall artist named Spragga Benz decided that he would respond for Sasco by dropping a diss record of his own titled Done Seen It, and Kartel wasted no time responding to this either, releasing a response record the exact same day titled F Got Correction. Now, almost 15 years later in 2020, both Spragga, Sasco, and Vybz all said that the beef was over and that there was no more problems, with Vybz even saying that he would be remixing one of Spragga's songs titled Jump on the Beat, and also Vybz' son was also featured on this remix. Now, it seems like the three have mended their old wounds, but at the time around 2004, 2005, whenever this beef actually was, it was detrimental to one of Vybz' most crucial relationships, the one he had built with Bounty Killer. It's rumored that Bounty Killer took the side of Sasco and Spragga and thought that Vybz should have waited on a contract to be signed before sending shots, but what really drove the wedge between these two is up for speculation. The most popular theory is that when Killer took the side of Sasco and Spragga, it hurt Vybz, so he did what some consider retaliation and went to Bounty Killer's arch nemesis Beanie Man's wedding. To top it off, he even decided to do a song with Bounty Killer's ex-girlfriend, Angel. However, when Vybz was asked about it back in the day, he basically said that he decided to leave the alliance because he was growing independently, and claims that there was no real animosity between the two, basically making it seem like he just left because he wanted to be independent of everyone else.
Vybz Kartel has always been a full-fledged member of the alliance in all musical endeavors, but once it creeps over beyond music into the realm of, dealing with people and real feelings, Vybz Kartel have to take a stand because, as you know, Beenie Man is a good friend and Bounty Killer is a mentor. So Vybz Kartel chose to remain neutral, and for that choice, Vybz Kartel has been getting a lot of, flack from the alliance. So Vybz Kartel has opted to just leave. The Bounty Killer is a mentor of Vybz Kartel, over the years, the whole Jamaica know that, so we're always forever grateful and thing, but you have a time in life where you have to become your own person, even in real life situations, because if I was to have followed my father back in the day, I wouldn't even have become an artist.
Crossing Killer is the price Kartel's paid for not coming across as
quote-unquote press button. You know, Vybz Kartel is his own big man. I don't know if maybe because I pay my own bills and I got kids of my own and I got house and I got responsibility. Maybe I think that's why.
Once Vybz left the Alliance in 2006, he joined what was referred to as the Portmore Empire, which was a group of dancehall DJs and singers from his Portmore neighborhood. Not only that, but he also formed his own record label, Adidja Records, and partnered with the well-known producer Ansley Not Nice Morris, and together the two started to sign a ton of artists from the Portmore area. Their roster included Vybz himself, Popcaan, Tommy Lee, and Javinci, all of which were super talented artists that were dropping crazy hit records in dancehall. Things were looking up for Kartel despite falling out with his old teammates, but things were about to get even more intense as he would find himself in a feud with another artist named Mavado, and this beef was so heavily publicized and widespread that many people, including the press, said it was basically the Biggie and Tupac beef of dancehall. After Vybz left the Alliance, there was friction between everybody involved, especially the artists that were still in the Alliance. One of these people was a former collaborator named Mavado. Now, Mavado had been writing and releasing music since at least 2002, but he wasn't aiming for being an artist per se like Vybz was. Instead, he was in the background, writing the lyrics. This even included a few songs for Vybz himself. In 2005, Mavado dropped his first real single titled The Real McCoy. Then it was an instant hit. Mavado seen his star presence rise immediately, and people were demanding more from the newcomer. He had his own style and unique melodies that resonated with dancehall fans across the globe. The same way that Vybz came out of nowhere and became the biggest thing to ever hit the stage in this genre just a few years before is the same thing that Mavado was doing in 2005.
Yo, lyric, yo, me there up on the gully side. If you want to know where fi find me, shooting farm on the bedside. Cause them see too much, them fi avoid we. That's why me there up on the gully side.
Mavado was a protege of Bounty Killer, just like Vybz was previously, and he became a sensation in the genre, bringing in a ton of new eyes to Killer's Alliance. These events, Vybz choosing to attend Beanie Man's wedding, where Beanie Man married Bounty's ex, Vybz deciding to leave the Alliance, Mavado becoming as popular, if not more popular for a moment than Vybz. It all led to an all-out war happening between the two groups, and Jamaica found itself being split into basically two factions, Gully and Gaza. The names simply represent where the two artists are from. Gaza is a section of the Water for Housing scheme in Portmore, the area where Vybz grew up, and Gully was an area in Cassava Peace, St. Andrew, where Mavado was from. When Vybz left the Alliance, he continued to drop his regular hit records, but occasionally he would insert lyrics taking shots at the Alliance and its members. But as Mavado's star presence grew, these shots seemed to become more directed towards Mavado himself. It's unclear why, but perhaps Vybz felt that Mavado was becoming a real threat on the music front. For years, Vybz had ruled the genre with an iron fist, and Mavado was quickly breaking the walls down and becoming just as big as Vybz. Either way, this resulted in Mavado creating a song titled Mr. Palmer, which is Vybz' real last name, and there was no questioning who it was aimed at because of the name of the song. And in the song, he calls Vybz an informant, accuses him of bleaching his skin, and drops basically some early 2000 dance hall drill lyrics. I don't know how else to explain it. Now, up to this point, Vybz hadn't really name dropped Mavado on any records, just sent subliminal, so a lot of people were wondering what made Mavado address Vybz publicly like this. And while Mavado has never really said himself, an insider in the situation named Foot of Hype basically said that Mavado intervened and addressed Vybz publicly on behalf of the Alliance after all the dissing that Vybz was doing.
I got to your story now, why you say Mavado pick it up in. And that's why Mavado pick it up, because he did internally a style the thing where the public don't know. So Mavado, then I pick the thing with him, Mavado just step forward and say, Killer, make me deal with him. Because I'm done a pre-way already. That is why he say Mavado shoot first and Ray Kartel was fucking around and provoking behind the scene long time. So the singer just couldn't take it no more. And say, yo, make me deal with him. So that caused Mavado to publicly attack first. But Kartel had been do some local foolishness. All right. More than that to where we just not gonna talk on this right now.
After Mavado sent his public diss track at Vybz, Vybz hit back with his own song Mafrado, where he sent direct shots back. Now, while this was supposed to be a war, Gully and Gaza graffiti started popping up everywhere you look, and real violence started to take place, resulting in several shootings and injuries. The violence even spread to schools, and police said that they seized R-rated Gaza Gully buttons or shirt pins sold by vendors outside of several schools, and the pins featured explicit Photoshop graphics of one artist holding the other's severed head with one hand and holding an AK in the other. And even a tourist was attacked by people for playing Movado's music in Gaza territory. This war would continue to plague the streets all of 2006, with violence occurring on both sides. In fact, it got so bad that the police had to step in, and in March of 2007, in a police overseen press conference, the two seemed to reconcile their differences, with Vybz saying that their beef was nothing more than a musical endeavor and that there was no real bad blood between them. Movado seconded that thought at the press conference. However, you could tell that there was still some animosity, because when Vybz was asked if he would collaborate from people from the Alliance moving forward, he said, "The Alliance will always be a part of Vybz Kartel. That's where I emerged, but they have their own entity while I have mine, the Portmore Empire." And people who were there at the press conference to witness it even said that they had their doubts about the unification of the two artists, and apparently they were right to doubt it, because it didn't take long for these two to be right back at each other's necks. And the rumor was that it was all due to a show promoter who had a financial interest in these two continuing the feud. Now, remember a while back in this story when Vybz got into it with Ninja Man on stage? Well, that happened at a concert called Sting. Well, this show was hosted by a company called Supreme Promotions, who is headed by a man named Isaiah Lang. Isaiah Lang is the man who would conceptualize each concert each year and was known for creating on-stage clashes between artists. This included the one between Ninja Man and Vybz. Well, Sting was slated as usual to have a show in 2008, and leading up to the show, Movado and Vybz started dropping more diss records towards each other. And at the time, it didn't make a lot of sense to people while they were backpedaling from their public statements about not having problems, but with hindsight, some say it's because Isaiah Lang wanted to use this beef as a tool to draw in a crowd for his event. By the way, Isaiah Lang is also considered to be one of the most feared police officers in all of Jamaica. It's just a fun fact that I found interesting. Anyways, the ploy seemed to work, because leading up to the 2008 Sting Award, people began to expect an onstage clash between Movado and Vybz, and the clash is what they got. The scenario was simple. The two would come on stage, take turns performing their records, and then the crowd would decide who they thought won. Vybz came out fully clad in camo military gear, and Movado came out basically in a police officer's uniform. The two traded song lyrics back and forth, and thankfully the show went down without any violent incidents taking place.
Boy, find and find out them a barber, shot you a star. When them a try, them must be blood clot fool. Level. Now support Addy, and him up, him fuck Jeffrey, straight on shot, why I can shoot them once you.
The event ended with Movado walking off the stage and Kartel performing a few more songs before leaving the stage himself. When it came to who won, opinions were split.
Last, the camera sees of Movado is the Sinjay being carried aloft by fans declaring he won. Leng, for one, wasn't having any of that.
No, we can't call this one. We're going to have to do it again in February. We're looking forward for that, yeah?
Feelings were running high in the daybreak hours at Jam World.
Alliance for life for the world! Yeah. Like Alliance a drop sleep. Movado, let me tell you, I'm an artist, you know. Movado run out of lyrics. Repeat lyrics and then re-forward that lyrics. That no make you win clash. And if you have it on tape, you can know. So, Kartel, you're the man.
Only got run out of tune. Billy more like casket. Movado all the way, Movado straight.
Gaza is there. Kartel straight, Gaza straight. Gully God, we say. The gully come down for the Gaza, Gaza they are DC.
I think the bat is not finished.
25 years me I come and sting. Me know when Shabba a ball and Super Cat a fling back in the crowd. That and a clash. That and a clash and the argument no circle.
And Kartel on the ball and God, I will say, Kartel with straight.
It wasn't hard finding those who did not.
But if you realize the alliance on the world straight, you see, although Jamaica done that, you see me I said the world see, say, to all those fake people who are trying to rise evil over good, there is no way you can ball forward for a man when I believe in a God over somebody who fear God.
Follow God to the world. Kartel, you talk on TV, say, Shakespeare said, all is fair.
If you big up your Usain Bolt, because my run of that saying, but officially right now, him is the second fastest man in the world. It's the Baba the fastest man in the world, but we have a thing who said, don't run, koof, cough, me eye, see eye. So if you know a TVJ and a ear, and them know we are, you know, my place, you know. Big up Rhino in here, don't know. Big up the runner, I knew name, no more trimming around here. Look like he's running, but I'm good. You know, I'm out.
A week later, the arguments were still not settled.
Fact is that Vybz Kartel win the clash because Movado run off stage after I get booed about 4 consecutive times, after running out of lyrics, after bringing his own bands and eventually leaving with his bands. You know what I mean, not giving Vybz Kartel a chance to respond. So I was the last man standing, so everybody can see that Teacher is the original winner of the clash.
So are you disappointed then that a few papers and a few articles have said that it's a draw?
No, I'm not disappointed, no, because in the initial stages, a few media people, especially in the print media, were of them own ulterior motive was trying to say that Movado win the clash. That was before the majority of people got the CD and DVD. Because I know we're living in modern times, you know. It's not like one time in the 70s, you know. So everybody have access to DVD and CD now. So, but before that, in the initial stages, a few print media was trying to bias the thing. You know what I mean? But we're pleased with the overall outcome from the streets, not necessarily from the media.
There are rumors that there might be a rematch. Would you be interested in a rematch? So you would do a rematch?
Right now. Right now as we're speaking with this microphone. You see what I say? So I would say don't run. So this time I guess we need like a cage with a big padlock on it. That means him can't run. Straight me I tell you.
So a lot of people have said they are surprised that, you know, he was able to stand up to you toe to toe. Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised, and it wasn't really toe to toe, you know, because as I said before, it was his band. So if you notice and watch back the DVD and scrutinize it, you find that at times when I was getting the loud mix to cover my microphone sound, you know what I mean, he might get the nice soft mix them. But Vybz Kartel still prevail because at the end of the day it's talent, you know. You know what I mean? So we have no problem with that, man.
So Kartel, you're saying that you'll be willing to continue the feud, continue the rivalry between you and Movado?
No, it's not really a rivalry as such, you know. It's just a beatdown, you know, because as everybody can see, you know. You know what I mean? And I said before, maybe in another sport or another field of entertainment, maybe in running, somebody could have said, yeah, Movado win the clash. If it was a running clash, you know what I mean? But it's a musical clash, so you have to just say Kartel are the last man standing, which is the victorious one. But if Len come with the right money, you know what I mean, big yard, some of you just deal with it.
Straight up. No go round thing. Everybody does thing and see who dead, don't it? The end of that thing too.
No, but
who you get thing?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't there.
You wasn't there?
I wasn't there.
You watch?
I've been looking at the tapes.
Yeah.
I've been reading the articles.
Yeah.
The articles have been saying that it's a draw.
How it becomes a draw?
That's what the articles are saying. Right?
But why? Hold on, hear me say, the next morning after Sting, everybody, hold on now, Sting go on Friday, Saturday morning, right? Saturday evening, every paper come out. It's a gully god, don't it?
That's what's being said.
Okay, so hold on now. How comes Monday after now? Mr. Paper come out about Jah. I not go to war on Jah. When I on stage, I'm done. I step on the bleacher, you know, and I deal with him wicked, you know. You saw me as a first thing, when I go up on stage, them turn on my mic. Nothing call me up on stage 15 minutes before me even let no near the stage. Because the things are the whole of them plan. In plan, so I'm going to call me up on stage and then I go, because I'm way out so, and you know it's Sting ram. So I'm going to take a time forget for walk out. So the crowd stays now and keep back and I wonder, oh, the man no walk out, how long?
So my father, the question everybody asking you, why did you leave the stage? Because people are saying,
Elder, see? Me go sabam and up on stage. See? Me stay so I step on the bleacher and I deal with him wicked. Me hear the bleacher get 5 consecutive boos behind one another. When him come with the mother thing, you know, he might get boo long before that, you know. When him come with the mother thing, you know, I get the bigger boo now, you know. And when me step on him, you know, and him turn that and stay so, you know, he don't even know what to do, you know. I go so and walk, you know. I don't come off a stage, you know. I walk and go stand up behind everybody, because I know him I go say me run. Because I hack him a hack. But here what now, Jamaica know him and my fans know him. And the boy I live for my name all long, so I just go over Sting and rub him out. And here what now, you come do interview and say you win some and you lose some. You have to admit say you're dead in your town. And stop going and hold on now. Oh, your friend them come now and put so much things in the paper. Hold on now. You don't feel like say all of them things they want to put in the paper all along. Nothing people tired of them things there. People tired of it. Because if you pick up the paper today and something in there about the 2 artists them, everybody are gonna know who write it. Your friend them. That artist ready for anything, because him don't have a career. You understand? So him ready for anything. I don't have time for it. More you tell my fans them this. Saying, I one reason make my guys Sting go war. Because the level when I depend, you know. I fly in the sky, you know. And when I go start looking, I see them not going at this God, you know. About them now want to know God and be a thing, you know. And I try to corrupt the youth them mind. And I just say, hold on there. International level, give me a minute. And I just step one and go somewhere and come deal with it. So here I do even me. I do even go do Sting for myself. I go do Sting for the fans them. Because my fans are out there and someone I say, oh, when an artist afraid, and an artist this, I know them not better than me. Because if you notice someone song, you know, every song of them do sound same way, you know. Every one of them sound same way. I just a few words strange. Everything, when I do no song with sound same way. One of my fans them know I don't know nothing about any rematch. I'm not Jack the Ripper, I don't kill dead people. You understand my fans? Them, I am very sure. I heard that the next artist came on the TV program and said that you lose some and you win some. So you must admit it, so you lose. You understand? And Sting is not about what the promoter them say. It's about the audience who spend their money.
This beef continued brewing pretty much the rest of 2007 and 2008, with more violence pouring over into the streets as fans chose a side and stuck to it. At this point, we started seeing articles popping up blaming Kartel for what all was happening, saying that he was destroying the youth by making people believe his gangsterisms, and pretty much all of the violence that was taking place was blamed on Kartel and his music, despite him repeatedly telling people it's just music and to please not let it spill over into real life. However, the government felt differently, and after a mob attack that took place in some inner city neighborhoods inside the capital of Kingston, the government decided it was time to step in again. And on December the 8th, 2009, Kartel and Mavado met with Jamaican Prime Minister Bruce Golding in an attempt to end the feud.
The government is defending its decision to intervene in the dancehall rivalry between DJs Mavado and Vybz Kartel, whose open contempt for each other has divided their fans in what is known as a Gaza Gully conflict. Jamaica House says it was a matter of responsibility to intervene in the conflict, which has such wide-reaching tentacles. Nadine McLeod has more.
For those who might have doubted the necessity of 4 government ministers meeting with the 2 DJs, Darrell Vaz wanted to make this clear.
The government thought it very important to have this meeting this morning based on the fact and the impact on the 4 ministries that were represented there this morning, being national security, culture, education and information, the impact that this impasse has been having as it relates to these ministries.
And one half of the rivalry, Mavado, seized the opportunity to let it be known that he and Vybz Kartel are by no means foes.
I mean, me and Vybz, we're not really enemies, you know what I mean? So as I speak, me and Vybz right here. You know what I mean? I never throw a stone of off of Vybz before. He never done the same, you know what I mean? So it's just about music, but as we say, we have the fans out there, you know what I mean? And people take it to a different level.
Vybz Kartel concurred.
Yeah, well, yeah man, we agree with what Mavado said a while ago, and as a matter of fact, we have plans to do another collaboration, because you have to remember the first time Mavado and I did a song, it was a collaboration, you know. Those are the happiest days of my life, so it's like, no, that is what we're bringing back now. So in the beginning of our meeting, so is it in the end of the war, so we're coming back with...
But Vybz Kartel and Mavado have been here before, a different place, a different year, but the same story. Back in 2007, the DJs had called a truce, making many skeptical of their sincerity today. But the government apparently isn't in doubt. As the two DJs emerged from their meeting with the ministers and the Peace Management Initiative, Vybz outlined some of the projects the two have agreed to work on.
And as such, we have proposed a joint treat between both artists at locations to be identified before Christmas, a paint-out day, both in the schools and in all the communities across Jamaica, which will be dealing with the Gaza Gully graffiti and other graffiti. A joint song to appeal to the supporters of both artists. A peace concert to be arranged in conjunction with the both artists and, of course, the Ministry of Youth and Culture.
Mr. Vybz said the private sector is also on board. Nadine McLeod, TVJ News.
And a local story we promised you earlier. A 5-point initiative is to be undertaken to stem the warring Gully-Gaza feud. Measures agreed on at a meeting at Jamaica House involving the artists at the heart of the conflict, Vybz Kartel and Mavado, as well as 4 government ministers.
The measures include a peace concert involving both artists, a painting exercise to remove graffiti, the wearing of T-shirts with portraits of both artists, joint songs by the artists making appeals to their supporters, and a treat with both artists present.
Now, the ministers present at the meeting were Education Minister Andrew Holness, Information Minister Vybz, National Security Minister Dwight Nelson, as well as other government officials. The dance hall artists Mavado and Vybz Kartel have made it clear they are not enemies and it's just about the music.
They ended that press conference with a list of stuff the government was going to make them do, which included a joint peace concert that was scheduled to take place in Barbados, but the Barbadian Prime Minister stepped in and canceled the show before it could take place, probably out of fear of it going terribly wrong. Now, officially, the two stopped dissing each other and moved on with life after this, but this wasn't the complete end of the story, because a year later, Mavado's son was charged and convicted of murder, which resulted in him getting a life sentence in prison. And Vybz would find himself in a very similar situation around the exact same time. After the beef with Mavado, Vybz didn't slow down. In fact, he only became bigger. He released singles like Romping Shop, which debuted in the Billboard Top 100 songs in America, giving Vybz yet another international hit. And then he followed that up with his single Clarks, which was in the top 3 reggae songs, racking up more plays than any other song for over 40 weeks in a row. Clarks was a brand of shoes that was popular in the 1990s, but basically fell off before the turn of the century. Vybz basically single-handedly revived the company by making this song and 2 more, Clarks 2 and Clarks 3, shouting the brand out. After seeing how much power he had, the next year in 2011, he decided he was going to release his own shoe line branded Addies, and even launched a soap company called Cake Soap, which was primarily meant to be used as a skin bleaching product. Honestly, Vybz was on fire at this point, and he may have gotten the biggest opportunity yet when he was offered his very own reality TV show called Teach Us. where 20 women would live in a mansion in Kingston and compete for the affection of Vybz, kind of like a Flavor Flav type of situation. Now, things were set for Vybz to have an incredible year, possibly his best year so far, at least as far as his career was concerned, but all that came to a halt when on September 29, 2011, he was arrested by Jamaican police for possession of cannabis. 5 days later, Lime, the network that was going to be broadcasting his show, announced that the show had been canceled due to Vybz' arrest, and this was only the beginning of his problems. While he was locked up on these weed charges, the police doubled back and hit him with an even more serious charge, this time murder. On October 3rd, 2011, about a week after his arrest, the Jamaican Major Investigation Task Force, also known as MIT, charged Vybz with murder, conspiracy to murder, and illegal possession of a firearm. Police say that on Monday, July 11, 2011, Kartel, along with other men, conspired to kill a man named Barrington Bossy Burton, a 27-year-old businessman and music promoter who was based in Portmore. Burton was murdered while standing with friends along Walker's Avenue in the Gregory Park area of Portmore. While sitting in jail awaiting trial on these charges, Vybz authored and released a book titled The Voice of the Jamaican Ghetto. And the book was released in July of 2012 with a message attached to it that said, "Babylon can incarcerate the messenger, but not the message." An early hint that things with his legal troubles may not be exactly what they seem. For the charges against him in the case of the Barrington Burton murder, Vybz was granted bail on March 23, 2012 for $3 million Jamaican dollars. However, even though he could post the bail, he wasn't released, and that's because the Jamaican government doubled back and charged him with another murder, a second one, and this one was for the murder of a man named Clive Williams, also known as Lizard. Now, this case can get a bit confusing for sure, and the details are all over the place, but I'm going to do my best to make sense of what all went down for you guys. So starting back when Vybz was arrested for the murder of Burton, the police did sweeping raids of a bunch of his properties. They started their search in Kingston's upscale Norbrook community where Vybz was living at the time. Then they went to a property on Swallowfield Avenue in Kingston's Havendale area. That residence was the scene of a fire a few weeks before Vybz was arrested. A computer hard drive and several boxes were removed from the property and collected for evidence. They then drove to Portmore to a home that was reportedly owned by Kartel's mom, where a number of items were confiscated there too. Now, a lot of people have claimed that Clive Williams' body was never found, and officially it wasn't, but in the original court documents it clearly states that Vybz' home in Havendale, the one that had been burned down, there was a partially burned, decomposing body found inside. Now, this sounds pretty bad, right? Well, yeah, of course, but here's where it gets interesting. From the start of this thing, Vybz has claimed that this entire case was a ploy by the government to set him up because he had too much influence in Jamaica, right? Hence why he said Babylon can incarcerate the messenger but not the message. Now, whether you believe that Vybz was set up or not is up to you, but there may be more credibility to his statement than a lot of people think, because this info about a burned out, decomposing body hit the news after the information was released by the police, but this body was never identified or even mentioned again after the initial reports. It's like it just disappeared, which is pretty strange if you ask me. Anyways, so they have him in jail pending 2 murder charges, one for Barrington Burton and one for Clive Williams. And it wasn't looking good for Vybz, but after about a year in detention, Vybz would get some good news on July 24, 2012, almost a year after his arrest, when the jury returned a not guilty verdict in the Barrington Burton case. It was a solid victory for Vybz, but his struggle was far from over because he still had a whole nother murder case to go through. His trial for this one was originally scheduled for January 21st, 2013, but had to be postponed due to a lack of unbiased jurors, and the trial actually didn't get started until November 18th of that year. The trial lasted a total of 65 days, making it the longest trial in Jamaican history, and at the end of it, Kartel was found guilty by an 11-member jury who voted 10-1 of the murder of 27-year-old Clive Lizard Williams. On the 3rd of April 2014, Kartel was sentenced to life imprisonment with the eligibility for parole after serving 35 years.
From very early on Thursday, March 13, 2014, the police instituted pedestrian and vehicular restrictions in downtown Kingston as hundreds of Vybz Kartel's fans gathered for a verdict. After 65 days of trial, delayed starts, 24 prosecution witnesses and 6 for the defense, Justice Lennox Campbell turned over the matter to the 11-member jury at 3:45 p.m. Outside the courtroom, there was tension, and in Kartel's hometown too, in the Waterford community of Portmore they call Gaza City.
Yeah, sir, we used to live. Yeah, it's a Kartel used to live. Right, yes, sir. Yeah. World boss! World boss! Citizens of Portmore, please clear the road. People have to push out from you, especially people have to come out. Them shall let go the man, free world boss, man. John knows stop, we have a cry.
After 1 hour and 53 minutes, the jurors returned with a 10-1 verdict. With the verdict coming under 2 hours and divided at the same time, the judge sent them back to reconsider. Minutes later, they would re-emerge, again with a 10-1 verdict. Adidja Palmer, guilty. Sean Campbell, guilty. Kyra Jones, guilty. And Andre St. John, guilty. The fifth co-accused, Shane Williams, was found not guilty. Media scuffle out of the way, Williams' lawyer Everton Dwyer said he was happy for his client.
Can you say on what basis you're going to make your appeal? The lawyers who are going to deal with that, including myself, will have to look back through the transcripts and arrive at a process. As it stands here now, let me just indicate, and all who have ears here, the jury has given a verdict and we accept it and move to the next process.
The prosecutors have to make sure that in their conduct, it is not that we are striving for a winning situation. We strive to put up the best evidence that is available. There are persons in the system, in the police force, in the prosecuting service, in the judiciary, court staff, who have integrity and who are committed to public service.
No doubt it's a long prison sentence that they handed down, but why do they think that Vybz killed Clive Williams in the first place? Well, it all goes back to when they arrested him for having weed. When they did, they seized his cell phone. And according to police, it was rife with evidence. To start things off, the police had received testimony from Clive's girlfriend saying that the day he went missing, she received text from him. And he said that he believed he was on his way to Vybz' house at Havendale with his friend Leonard Chow to admit that they were responsible for some lost guns. She claimed that he told her he was so scared that he was shaking. He begged her to call the police because Vybz was about to kill him. And according to Chow, the man that went with Lizard, they pleaded to Vybz in his living room that they would pay him back. While they begged, another man named Kahira Jones grabbed a hold of Lizard. At this point, Chow ran into the other room. When he came back, he said he saw Lizard's body lying motionless on the floor with Vybz' barber, Andre Massa St. John, standing beside him holding a block in his hand. Now, that's what Chow told the police. They also had messages sent from Vybz' phone to an associate of his who was also charged in this case named Sean Campbell. And in these messages, Vybz allegedly told him that he was gonna chop up the Lizard boy and that as long as Sean was alive, they could never find Lizard's body. The messages and testimony from Chow were entered into evidence. However, the validity of the text messages quickly came under scrutiny, with Vybz' defense arguing that the data had been manipulated and that these messages were sent after Vybz' phone was seized, but the judge in this case basically told the defense attorney to shut up and sit down with no probe into if it was true, and the judge allowed these messages to be read to the jury.
Day one of the Vybz Kartel appeal hearing got underway in Kingston this morning with a claim by one of the lawyers for the dancehall artist and his co-accused Sean Storm. According to Bianca Samuels, the metadata of the text message prosecutors used to convict her clients shows that the text was actually created on July 6, 2011, that's 6 weeks before the August murder of Clive Lizard Williams. This is what the text message found on Kartel's phone had said. "Between me and you, we chop up the boy Lizard fine and dash him away now. As long as we're alive, them can never find him." This one has left me puzzled, Samuels told the appeal court. To that, the president of the Court of Appeal, Dennis Morrison, responded, "Our silence was sharing in your puzzlement." Justice Morrison, along with Justices Patrick Brooks and Frank Williams, are hearing the appeal against the murder and conviction of Kartel, Sean Storm, Kyra Jones, and Andre St. John. Samuel said the development raises more than a reasonable doubt about the integrity of the evidence, which should not have been put to the jury. She also said the electronic file lifted from Kartel's phone was modified 3 hours after the device was seized by a top police investigator. The text message was used during the entertainer's 17-week murder trial. But what is metadata and why is it so critical? Essentially, metadata is the back-end information. It gathers and summarizes behind-the-scenes details on information that is posted online. Information like the time and date of the creation of the data, the creator or author of the data, and the file size.
But that's not all, because they also found voice notes from Vybz where he seemed to be talking about Clive losing some shoes and some laces. And for those of you who don't know, shoes is a slang for guns and laces is a slang for bullets. Why Vybz will be recording this stuff into a voice note is unknown, but apparently he did, and this is what he said.
Hombre, they don't know it's a blood clot lizard and we. I will call my phone today and tell me, say, them can't find the 2 blood clot new shoes them when me give them, dog. So them lock them in our house. Side of all feet where I build up, dog, in a blood clot house, they lock 2 shoes and can't find my bum buckler shoes, bridging. And I come tell me, fuck me is dog. I just tell them, say, make sure I get my shoes by 8 o'clock in a bad man. In the car. I hear you get I think I say that me I tell my dog say what do me I hear reason about the said fucking thing. But as I tell you hombre, the man where them give the blood clot shoes like dog. If 8 o'clock come and I get my shoes are the same fucking thing dog. So if them want them friends to live, them better get my blood clot shoes. Yeah, more time I leave I love follow up certain science thing in the dog. When you know say a girl tell me say she call a woman. And the woman can tell her instantly say, the boy will go country where they move the shoes for sell them, move the shoes them for sell them in a dog. And when I say me mates back and I say where they when I go country, it's a portion of man. It's a portion of man forward in a dog. So me even know which man bedging. And I tell the dog, yo, batty boy, them I tell me say they can't find 2 of my shoes in a dog. I kill one of them, you know, I give them till 8 o'clock to get one bum buckler shoes. As a dead blood clot, man, that, you know.
My Dan, hear me I say, you know, I ask you, about the program with Siva, because here, them things they're not supposed to be on a Siva government, you know. Siva supposed to keep check on them things there at all times and make sure say them in them eyesight, you know. You understand what I deal? And before me I left, you know, I don't be that like or return and move. Because some man up there so when I see blood, I know some of them, you know. So I deal with them come like say anybody new dog. Them just bring in, them not busy. Them don't to check on some man to find out them background and nothing. You see what I deal with? I want to me I tell you, my Dan, them do it already, you know. Them make them get no more chance to do that again, you know. I tell you straight, you know. I bust anytime after 8 and a man again a good talk on it done. Bust off a man head and here we go do. You go bust off a man head live down there and one of the strange man down there. 2 man head you go bust off one time. You can't afford for so much things I get missed up, madam. A joke thing.
Dog, my first man my page, you know, because me ask him say, oh, Bridge, you know, your blood clot around off place. And you don't even know nothing about dog. The man I tell me say, I 2 them here, you know. And bandit I tell me say thing them me say from Saturday morning in a bad man. It's a little bird call me and tell me I'm a PhD lizard them and them I tell me say I eat them I go about, you know. Me I say dog, I better find man thing for us, you know dog. Cause me even yo, you know say one of the hombre them or them give the thing for lock. Me even know that the youth there no problem. Come like yesterday man come live boy, you know. Me even know blood clot him, you know. So make sure I tell the man them say I want my blood clot shoes by 8 o'clock. And I go fuck up to one of them dog. Hombre, they don't know say come like you're a prophet dog. Cause you say something to me say. You know like up there so because every little man just run in and them just accept them and them. They don't know some of the meds dog where you say and one mind say find out where the 3rd man come from. Where them sell out the shoes cause me don't know him and me know if youth to grow about it. You know some run the file problem child. The man them tell me say the hombre not even live there for 1 year dog. And guess where they say the hombre come from? Walter me no hombre. Walter me no dog. That's me have to call this and we and diss them up and say, pussy hole in the city, a Towncraft, the man use porno. Because man left from bad place and come over here to come see so now some little giggy, laughy, batty boy. And take the shoes, can I go give him friend them a town and come back, come sit down with them and go on like him don't know the shoes missing up. And me tell them to tell the boy, they say, if I get back my shoes, him and him blood clot, mama go dead in a bad man. Come on.
Remember, you tell me what day, so you make all of the shoes them stay around a Black 5. Yeah, man, I destined them to stay, man. No more shoes in a rat town, everything stay upon your side. You see what I deal with? No more shoes a rat town, a blood clot up there so them to stay free-handed, nothing for them.
No, if you say nothing bad, man, I done a free that already, but that's why them go back from my shoes, that's me can send them down from the Gaza, dog. So them mothers, them want, them gonna make some one pop and make a year so them have one pop up, them will kill two of them.
No, you see, no, and now you see where the real thing there. You see me, I say that's a matter of time, you know. You see everybody show up them blood clot colors. Cause the thing did spread and it'll take its time dry right back. You know the little square where they did before. You see me, I deal with. So everybody show up them colors now, so you know what time it is. You see me, I deal with my boss.
A real fucking thing you thought, dog. I mean, it's not that free, so. And I say it really right back free, cause everything must go right back down from the Gaza, dog. Big woman thing, dog, them for go bridging.
Right, and it better fade away there because less people you have to deal with, the more you know how your things stay, you know, but it's when it's wider way up there, so, because some boy do something and I come on and you don't even know, you know, come skin off them teeth, you know. So you say the less people you have to deal with, better blood. You have everything in your palm of your hand where you can know. Anything jump off, you know where for pray and where for look. But when it's too far from them place, so them boy too mix up there, so dog.
I think mankind should have never even reach as far as third world neither. Because from day 1 minute and them pussy there in the dog, I just too shotty that far around me, you know. And shotty bring ratty in the dog, and see it may not back come to a big informer in the dog. So it should even reach this from day 1 dog.
My Dan, don't let them get too comfortable neither, you know. And sit down over this and feel like so them get a phone call from you and you tell them that, you know, them for a program that can reach him back in the night or a morning, that for them back on the end, so a man forget to wet up, not forget too comfortable, because them go on like them one style blood clot man thing. So I tell them that, them thing I see them are coming, you know, when I could have tell you from a long time, you know, but, you know, one more time I try to link you, so man I go and them want to shut out man out of the thing, you know. Because I'm sit down from a block and observe how they move, you know, how them friendly with newcomers, you know, you see me I deal with. So, I don't know, sit down thing, them not forget comfortable, them just have to keep moving and keep them eye open at all time. I don't know where the blood clot will reach them.
A real talk, you're talking a problem. I page back my dog and make him page him because him I govern the program in a dog. So I call him right now and make you know what I go on, hombre.
Why don't them boy enough to sleep, all of them beds 9 hours a night and them supposed to pray a bag of thing them for up. Not sleep for no man until the thing them forward, madam.
Real thing, bad man. That man a real bomb buckler thing, dog. Big woman thing. Yeah, I hear about it, man.
My dad, what the program? Don't hear from yesterday, you know, some of they are praying and I wonder what I go on. I know what I go on, my dad. Blessed.
Same thing as the rest of man, the boy, him take the thing them dog, but the boy mama up the dog. Dash me, I make the man them dash away now, hombre.
My dad, third world. Don't them dash away down our side. If I know out the road or third world, no we down our side. You hear that?
Bro, in a Chevy yard, you know. Chevy yard, the pussy old girl live, you know.
Yeah, man, I just call along there a while ago, paper, so them go about them and them not see the man them. Come like the man them take for themselves. And watch this now, no? And right, Ross, glad place. I say, oh, that's how when it happen. And the boy danger have to give account for that. Put him back in the spot. You see what I mean, David? Yeah, man.
They are waiting for the priest them to link me back and make me know what them I do. Because them not saying about the thing come here, because them all get fucking at that. Do it, yeah, do it, man. A murderous thing, man.
So well, Lizard and we them cut. Because I said a man go look for them yesterday and no man, I said them not see them, you know. The man I say come like cut them cut, you know.
Yeah, but problem, Charlie, if them cut, where them all cut go? That's a the rascal question, hombre. Them dead, man, them can't cut gun over dog, you're mad. When they even cut chance, time, I have to buy it back.
You see the whole of them, where they run silver, them know what blood clot go on, you know. You see me? Because guess what? If the man not say we and the man not say Lizard and the boy, them still a call back in the scheme and a link with who serve and who a give them information and what go on and who them see a walk past in a rat town, because so them thing going, you know, you see me I deal with. So the whole of them up at that blood clot know what go on. Them take man for force. You know, you say it's still in Ramadan. So you think setting up, so it's setting up for civil response to it, you know. Right now you shouldn't have kill of yourself, you know. A civil if you go about them, you know, because civil them youth, a civil youth them, you know, you see me? So civil if you make some phone call and make them know, say, yo, watch this. Ray, you know. You see me, so you shouldn't have kill of yourself and then. And that me I tell you, because more time I want to, oh, you're just so far out, so man, they over just and care about monitor the thing like how to monitor.
No, but I see him, so me I deal with it. I feel laugh, dog. Because like your mind read a virgin. Because I don't kill out myself, dog. I just call Sean up to this man and tell him, say, hombre, what about me things them? And make me get my money to buy about me thing them. And I do what I do with whoever. I just want to get back my thing and you respond to it. So I make sure I tell him that this morning.
DJ, you know, somebody just a year a while ago said badness and danger must kick off on the line this morning. And it seems like it come like bad danger, bad at the man them. The man them come like them afraid of danger, dog.
Yeah, I govern things, man. You don't have to say nothing, man. Just listen.
So, you know, you use that blood clot, you know.
I got a problem, child. Me there I put on a tattoo style. How you just see tattoo? Yeah, a bride of Chucky, man. Oh.
Yeah, it's a Lizard and the new boy, my name Browns. Two of them here to get dash way, you see me? Because be a man call me and ask me if me here, you know. You see me? And a nigga from Night Town just called me a while ago and say, two man get dash way for the ends. So me I said to him, say, me I behave like me don't know who him attack, you see me?
Yo, tell me exactly where you're here, bad man. Come on, where I go on.
So, you know, you use that blood clot, you know.
So who them said dash them way?
Linky, give me a link this morning. You see me, I say, me some dope and me and him there reason. Out of the blues, me just hear the man and say, yo, dash a Lizard, you know, me I say, blood clot. But me I say to myself, Lizard get dash, I not hear from you. So me I wonder, what I go on, so come now, I start link back a yard.
So me just who tell you, who are the first man to tell you, and where him hear it from. Just a while ago that.
So yeah, there's these voice notes where they're saying that Clive misplaced 2 new pair of shoes, and then there's the messages where Clive is saying that he was going to Vybz' house in Havendale. And to top it all off, there was also footage leaked to the press that was allegedly Vybz Kartel and his accomplices on the day Clive was killed inside Vybz' house in Havendale, plotting a murder. One man could be seen with the pickaxe, another man could be seen with what appears to be blood stains on his t-shirts, and then you could hear them discussing things like creeping up behind somebody and cutting their throat. You could hear Vybz tell another man when he swings the pickaxe, make sure not to swing it back too far because he might hit him, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It really don't look good here. Y'all watch the footage.
Rocky, what you here? This can kill him, but you have to swing it right and make it catch me. Yeah. You know, set up. I'm telling you, it's alive. I'm stabbing in my neck. That could have seen me. I feel my ball out. Yo, you get me, I say. I'm one there. Yeah, I'm one there. I'm one there.
hold him down and cut it short.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, we watch it.
No.
You have one? You have one?
No, man, I watch it.
No.
I'm not going to
make him stay.
Yeah, I can see what I want. Your name? In second year.
We?
No, I'm second we. You can see what I want when you are in my dad. Next time nobody say no say me go fuck you again and I get it to you.
I need to speed our chance down cut. And like wave there. And we know where we're going. When?
Not to know where we're going.
You say we? We.
This is pretty much all of the evidence that they had when it came to prosecuting Vybz. And after receiving his life sentence, you would think that it would slow him down a bit, but not really. Even behind walls, Vybz has managed to release new music yearly, with some even topping the charts. And this is true all the way up until present day. He still has music being released till this day.
A convicted murderer.
Dancehall artist Vybz Kartel was arrested before daybreak this morning.
Yet still one of Jamaica's biggest dancehall acts.
Gold will always be gold. Gold will never be silver. And Vybz Kartel is gold.
Can prison officials stop Vybz Kartel?
It is the work of the correctional officers that have stopped the illegal recording of songs.
Or should they try to profit from him?
The deal is you produce X. I give you a commission on what you produce.
Offer the relatives of the victims some form of financial compensation.
Kartel, whose real name is Adidja Palmer, was convicted of a heinous murder that prosecutors say took place in 2011. Found guilty of killing Clive Lizard Williams,
Empire to the world, right?
with 3 co-conspirators. Williams's body was never found. But even as he serves out his life sentence and appeals his conviction, he still runs his businesses. A clothing line based on his Gaza community in Portmore and managed by his business partner, Mike Dawson.
We sell online, and most of the business comes from Europe.
A book, a play in the works, a record label, and most significantly, his music. But not everyone thinks he should be allowed to wield that kind of influence. Just listen to Jamaica's then opposition spokesperson on youth and culture, Lisa Hanna, in a local radio interview about Kartel.
If you are convicted until you are not convicted, perhaps it is that your music needs not being played on the radio.
Even more unfair to some is how is he allowed to record in the first place if he is?
We need to find out how the songs are being made, how they're getting out, is there corruption in the prison system?
In 2016, Rolling Stone magazine reported Kartel had released more than 50 songs that year alone. The magazine, quoting Kartel through his lawyer, denied recording in prison, saying these songs were the fruits of a massive deposit of unreleased vocal material left behind before his arrest, updated for the moment by a cadre of trusted producers. We visited one of Kartel's producers who showed us how he's been updating old unreleased songs.
Really, Vybz Kartel wine your waist so wave.
Me love it when you wine your waist so. Me love it when you move your hips so.
Stop. So this though says April 22, 2016.
Yeah,
so
okay.
that's actually when he was in prison.
Okay, this was happened. That is when I transferred the 24 track at Mixing Lab, his vocal, to the hard drive. And taking off the hard drive to my thumb drive. Yeah,
and it was voiced when?
It was voiced 2001.
Raw.
Mixing Up recording studio. We got the tapes in and stuff, so...
How do you get the newness put into the songs?
When we fly back these old songs and these new beats, we cut them up and take out certain words out of it and put it on the intro, and it sound like it's words of today. And the ones that cannot work, what we do, we get other artists to go and collab on it.
Do you ever find that you need like an updated version of Kartel's voice?
Let me tell you something. I'm going to break this down to you, okay? Gold will always be gold. Gold could never be silver. What I'm saying. And Vybz Kartel is gold. No care what, old, new, or whatever.
So you have to let him know that you're doing this?
No, because he invites the songs and from me and stuff. But if I feel like there's an issue or problem and stuff, I contact his legal representative. And
Do you really check with the attorney, or do you just call him up behind bars?
shit. So you got phone in prison? Who get called?
Do you believe that he's recording behind bars? Do you believe that personally? Yes.
I don't think so. I think these songs are old songs.
But based on how current his music sounds, it's widely believed in Jamaica, Kartel must be recording from behind bars, at least to some extent. We visited Horizon Remand Center, where he was housed for most of 2016. At the time, there was an expo showcasing furniture, paintings, bedding and crafts, all made by prisoners. The superintendent at the time, Marcia Cummings Page, would not comment on Kartel, but told us contraband is something all prisons face the world over.
Cell phone is not a problem in Jamaica alone, it's a problem international. And no matter what you do, and we will try to stem it, but it's an international, something really give us brain rocking, nerve rocking.
I thought you had some kind of system where they block the transmission of cell phone or radio waves.
That's not effective.
She admits some correctional officers facilitate the trade.
We have correctional officers who have been bringing in phone and drugs, and they were caught and went to the court and was sentenced.
So have you ever seen any of the people who were on your staff ever in your lifetime enter the prison system as a prisoner?
Yes.
In an access to information request, we asked Jamaica's Ministry of National Security whether any correctional officers had ever been disciplined in relation to encounters with Kartel. We were told that answer was exempt under the Act. But one inmate who filmed this video of Inside Horizon on his unauthorized cell phone told us, outside of the official prison programs, money is what talks behind bars, at least to some extent. We have not been able to authenticate the video recording.
How did you get your phone? Because you say you got two.
Yeah, a police.
A correctional officer or a police?
No, a police. A police never pay them.
So how does it work?
Alright. If you want to pay them now, if you want to phone them, you have to do it. With my police, but in them, you can do it and just leave me. You understand? I'm making leave my people and they don't give them the money.
How much is the money for the phone?
Like a bang an hour, 3 grand, and if I touch it, that's 6 grand.
So do most prisoners behind bars have phones?
Yeah.
And what do most prisoners use the phone to do?
Phone keep my company, you know. I just start to see them and playing the game and WhatsApp my family and WhatsApp and phone me and make mine extreme more.
Incarcerated dancehall star Vybz Kartel is reportedly in more trouble.
A reported raid on Kartel's cell in 2013 found 2 cell phones, a DVD player and an iPod. Though his attorneys reportedly said another inmate had claimed ownership of the phones and the other items were approved by the remand center authorities, many people felt he was being granted special privileges as caricatured in this cartoon. But Cummings Page and our inmate at Horizon told us Kartel was treated just like other inmates. The Kartel producer True Blue that we spoke to was killed a few weeks after our taping. Police told us in early 2018 they do not have a motive for the killing. We did not get to independently verify the existence of the old Kartel recordings before his death. But the owner of the studio confirmed Blue recorded Kartel at his studio before the artist went to prison in 2011, and that Blue came there to convert some dated Kartel recordings to digital in 2016.
Despite being convicted of murder, Vybz has claimed his innocence since the beginning, saying that he was set up by the government who was mad that he had too much influence. He filed appeal after appeal since his conviction to no avail until just a few weeks ago. He filed an appeal and the highest court in the land decided to quash his conviction and allow him to have a new trial. This is because they found out that the jury had been tainted during the first trial. According to court records, the judge was made aware that one juror had attempted to bribe other members of the jury to return a not guilty verdict. Despite the judge knowing that this had happened, he decided to allow that jury to deliberate and come to a decision on this case, something that the higher court said was baffling. They said that the judge should have threw this case out and tried for a new trial with a new jury that wasn't tainted in order to protect the integrity of the court system, but that's not what the judge did. Instead, he allowed the jury to deliberate and convict Kartel. Not only that, but he sent them to deliberate at 4 in the afternoon, and a lot of people thought that he should have had them come back the next day, as having them deliberate this late in the evening could put undue pressure on them to return a verdict quickly, as it was already late in the day. After Kartel was convicted, the juror who tried to bribe the rest of the jury was arrested and charged with perverting the course of justice, but according to the high courts, this jury should have never even had the ability to decide this case to begin with.
Judgment in the matter of Sean Campbell, Adidja Palmer, Kahira Jones and Andre St. John against the King.
On the 13th of March 2014, following a 64-day jury trial in the Home Circuit Court in Kingston, Jamaica, the appellants, Sean Campbell, Adidja Palmer, Kahira Jones and Andre St. John, were convicted of the murder of Clive Lizard Williams, to whom I shall refer as the deceased. At trial, the prosecution case was that the deceased and another man, Lema Chow, had been given 2 unlicensed firearms belonging to Palmer for safekeeping. On the 16th of August 2011, Campbell summoned Chow and the deceased to Palmer's house after they had failed to comply with Palmer's deadline for returning the weapons. The prosecution alleged that they were met on arrival by Palmer, Jones and St. John, and that Chow and the deceased were both attacked, after which Chow saw the deceased lying motionless on the ground with Jones bending over him. Chow escaped, but the deceased was never seen again. Police attended Palmer's house on the 22nd of August 2011. They noticed the house smelled of disinfectant. On the 25th of August, they cordoned off the perimeter wall, treating the premises as a crime scene. When they returned on the 27th of August, they found that the entire interior of the house had been destroyed by fire. On the 29th of August, police forensics reported a foul odour emanating from the living room. On a further visit on the 30th of September, it was discovered that the rear of the house had been demolished. Police dug at the premises but did not find a body. The police seized the mobile phones of Palmer and St. John. Text messages, voice notes, and a video from those phones were put in evidence at trial. The prosecution also relied on telecommunications data which the police had obtained from Digicel, a communications provider. The prosecution case was that the mobile phone evidence and telecommunications data, taken as a whole with Chow's evidence, proved the fact of the killing, the reason for the killing, the method of disposal of the deceased's body, and the identity of at least one of the killers, namely Palmer. The 4 appellants each denied murdering the deceased. At trial, the appellants objected to the telecommunications data being admitted as evidence. They argued that the data was inadmissible because it had been obtained in breach of the Interception of Communications Act and the fundamental right to the protection of privacy of communications guaranteed by the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms contained in the Jamaican Constitution. The judge admitted the evidence. He ruled that the data could be relied upon by the prosecution even if it had been obtained in breach of the Charter or the Interception of Communications Act. Over the course of a 64-day trial, there occurred a series of incidents involving the jury. The jury was reduced to 11 members after a juror was discharged almost 8 weeks into the trial. On the final day of the trial, it was brought to the judge's attention that a member of the jury, who will be referred to as Juror X, had attempted to bribe other members of the jury. The judge questioned the jury forewoman, who stated that Juror X had offered bribes to each of the other jurors to acquit the appellants. The judge asked counsel for the prosecution and the defense if the trial could continue. It would not have been possible only to discharge Juror X, because under the Jury Act, a trial for murder cannot continue with fewer than 11 jurors. The judge decided to proceed with his summing up and gave a direction to the jury, reminding them of their function. The jury retired to consider its verdict at 3:42 p.m. The jury returned at 6:08 p.m. and by a majority of 10 to 1 convicted all 4 appellants of the deceased's murder. A 5th defendant was unanimously acquitted. Juror X was immediately arrested and was later convicted of attempting to pervert the course of justice. There was no evidence to connect his activities with the appellants. The appellants appealed against their conviction to the Court of Appeal of Jamaica, which dismissed their appeals. The Court of Appeal granted permission to appeal to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council on 3 grounds, which were, first, that the trial judge failed properly to inquire into allegations of juror misconduct. Secondly, that the trial judge departed from standard practice in inviting the jury to retire to consider their verdict so late in the day, putting undue pressure on them to reach a verdict. And thirdly, that the trial judge erred in admitting the telecommunications data because it had been obtained in breach of the Interception of Communications Act and the Charter. The Judicial Committee of the Privy Council has unanimously concluded that the appeals should be allowed and the appellant's convictions should be quashed on the ground of juror misconduct, and that the case should be remitted to the Court of Appeal of Jamaica to decide whether to order a retrial of the appellants for the murder of Clive Williams. The Board has considerable sympathy with the dilemma faced by the trial judge on the final day of a long and complex trial. Following the allegations of bribery, he had either to continue with the 11 remaining jurors or to discharge the jury. Despite this, the Board considers that the approach taken by the judge was a material irregularity in the course of the trial, which makes it necessary to quash the convictions. This is for 3 reasons. First, the direction to the jury on the final day was inadequate to save the situation. The judge simply reminded the jury that they had sworn or affirmed that they would return verdicts in accordance with the evidence they had heard in court. The judge did not refer to the alleged bribery, of which, if the allegations were true, the jurors were already aware. Secondly, the trial continued with the allegedly corrupt juror serving as one of its 11 members. In the Board's view, there should have been no question of allowing juror X to continue to serve on the jury. Allowing juror X to remain on the jury is fatal to the safety of the convictions which followed. It was an infringement of the appellant's fundamental right to a fair hearing under the Jamaican Constitution. Thirdly, the judge should have considered whether the remaining jurors might have become, consciously or unconsciously, prejudiced for or against one or more of the appellants as a result of juror X's behaviour. For example, there was a danger that the attempted bribe could have made the other jurors overcompensate, consciously or unconsciously, if they assumed that the offer must have come from one of the appellants and that therefore they must be guilty. The judge took no account of this risk. The Board is very mindful of the serious consequences which may flow from having to discharge a jury shortly before the end of a long and complex criminal trial. It is also very conscious of the danger of deliberate attempts to derail criminal trials by engineering situations in which it is necessary to discharge the jury. In England and Wales, there is legislation which allows a judge in certain situations to discharge a jury because of jury tampering and to continue the trial by judge alone. There is no such legislation in Jamaica. It follows that there will be occasions where, as in this case, a court will have no alternative but to discharge a jury and end the trial in order to protect the integrity of the system of trial by jury. In view of its conclusion on the issue of juror misconduct, the Board holds that it is not necessary to express a concluded view on the other 2 grounds of appeal. For these reasons, the appellant's appeals should be allowed. The Court is now adjourned.
And with that, Vybz is set to have a new trial in the future if the courts of Jamaica allow it to happen. In the eyes of the highest court, though, Vybz is considered an innocent man at this point, and we'll have to see what all happens in the future. Granted, this new trial isn't being ordered because the evidence was tampered with or because the evidence was lacking, but instead because one juror decided to bribe the others to return a not guilty verdict. But I can see how the high court can reach the conclusion that the rest of the jurors may have thought that this bribe came from Vybz or from somebody on Vybz' team, indirectly making them think that he was guilty, which in fact would have made this trial super unfair. It's been a crazy road, and in June of 2024, we'll find out what the path moving forward is for Vybz. But until then, that's basically the story of Vybz Kartel. Now, I was super sick during the making of this video, so I apologize if I sound a little nasally. That's my fault. I'm just a little bit sick. But if you enjoyed the content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, tap the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. As always, it's been fun rocking with y'all, man. I'm out.